Hey guys, what's up? It's the Merc here from Shed Games, and tonight I want to talk about the Kurak Alliance Fleet Guide from Spartan Games. This book is for their game Firestorm Armada, which, as I talked about in a previous video, all the rules for this game are now officially free to download on their website. Just spartangames.com/UK. I believe. If you just Google Spartan Games, it'll bring their website up. Go to the research section, downloads. All the rules for this game are there. Soon all the rules for all their games are going to be there. So, if all the rules are free, you might ask, why would you buy this book? It's about $35, I want to say. It's hardbound. It's hardback rulebook. And it is roughly 140 pages, so it might be a little expensive for what it is, but it's nicely put together. This is the front cover, as I showed you. This is the back that talks a little bit about the umbrella faction of the Kurak Alliance. The Kurak Alliance is the umbrella that contains the Terran, the Ceruleans, the Aquans, and all their allies. Now, what I'm going to talk about in this book is, this is just my overall impression of the book. I'm going to do a couple of other videos where I talk about the Terran as a faction, the Aquans and the Ceruleans, and the Mercenaries. Just separate videos on their own. Now, overall, first thing you notice when you open the book is it's a very pretty book. I mean, it's a nicely done book. Turn the page. This is the credits, the contents, and then there's a brief description of each of the three core races' homeworlds. Then you get right into the fluff. The Terran Alliance is the first fleet they talk about in the book, and it basically gives you all the background for the factions, like how they've gotten to where they are currently in the universe. And after that, you come into the how to build a fleet section, which tells you how to build patrol fleets, battle fleets, and grand fleets, and mighty armadas. And it also tells you the command distance and your tactics roll. Which the tactics bonus is a bonus on your roll to go first, and the command distance is how far apart your ships can be in a squadron. And after that, it gets right into the ships, starting with each faction's dreadnought and their most up-to-date, and a battleship. The nice thing here is there's a little blurb, at least for the bigger ships, explaining what, fluff, flavor, and the pictures are really nice. Brings me to two criticisms, not really criticisms, but two things that I think could have been included in the book that would have made it better. Well, one is something that could have been included. The other is a nitpick of mine. The one thing that I think would have been really interesting if they would have included would have been artwork. Because as you can see, flipping through the book, aside from the ship sketches, which coincidentally enough, I think it would have been more helpful if the ship sketches would have been pictures of the ships themselves, like the models. All the artwork in here is really well done pictures showing off Spartan's models. Which is fantastic because, I mean, they're trying to sell the models. But as they're explaining what the Cerulean look like, and what the Aquan look like, and what some of the more minor mercenary factions look like, it might have been cool to have little, images of, just the, examples of what that race looks like. Now, granted, with Planetfall coming out, and a 28mm game in the works, we're going to get to see what the races look like without needing artwork. But it would have been cool to have some artist renderings in the book. My other critique, while the book is nicely put together, it's very pretty, as you guys could see, there are some editing errors. And it's nothing big. I mean, it's not like there's huge editing errors that you just can't overcome or deal with. But paying, around the $30 price point for a book like this, and hitting editing errors where there's misspelled words, that was the big one. There were just misspelled words that were missing letters that should have been caught by proofreaders and editors. It's a little bit of a letdown. But again, you don't have to buy this book. There's nothing requiring you to buy it. So that's, I guess, the trade-off to that. So those are my two critiques of the book. Now, the one thing I want to talk about that I really like in the book, I like the whole book overall. I'm really glad I bought it. It's really inspired me to sit down and start working on a fleet. But what I really like is the fact that for each of the main fleets, it shows you a color scheme. It tells you kind of like what that fleet does in the Navy structure. Then it gives you a sample fleet to show you how the fleet in question plays. This helped me immensely to kind of kickstart ideas for background and fluff for my own Navy that I want to do, my own fleet. So that I really appreciate that. Overall, if I was to rate this book on a scale of 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, I would probably give it a solid 6.5 out of 10. Maybe 7. Probably 7. Because there's a lot of nice things in this book. There's the fluff is good. The blurbs on the ships are fun to read. There's some interesting blurbs about how the Ceruleans name their ships, how the Aquans name their ships. Some of the fluff in general, not from a writing perspective, but from a concept perspective, I can't get behind. Mostly the Aquans. I'll talk about it when I get to the video talking about that fleet, but it's just a crazy concept that I don't know. It's not my cup of tea. But I like the other two main factions, and I like the Mercs. Other interesting thing about this book, at least for me, being a Dystopian Wars player, and knowing that Spartan has been talking about doing a Grand Coalition, an Imperial Bond, and a Free Nations, basically fleet guide, seeing what they did with this, which I am assuming is mirrored in their Xenian League one for Firestorm, gives me an idea of what I might expect when the books come out for Dystopian Wars. And for me, that's great. As I said, the things that really kept this from being higher than a 7 on my scale, the editing errors. And that's just me being pedantic, but I think it was the 3rd or 4th page in I found one. And they're not as bad as in another book that I'm going to talk about probably next week, but they were still there. The artwork, I would have really appreciated that would have pushed it up a couple, maybe a point or two on the scale, just because it would have been neat to see. And lastly, why I can't give this a higher rating is because overall you don't need it. If you like the fluff, and if you like background, and if you like having everything at your fingertips, you're going to want this book, because it will give you everything at your fingertips to run one of the fleets in this book. And that is fantastic. That's one of the reasons I got it. Downloads are nice, but I like to have a hard copy physically there that I can flip through and read. And if you like the fluff and you like the background, you're going to want this too, because it gives you all of that. However, if you just want the stats to play your game, you don't need this book. And I think that's brilliant on Spartan's part. I think it was a smart move from selling perspective. But overall, that's the Kurak Alliance Fleet Guide from Spartan Games. Just flip to some random pages, and a big old wall of text is great. These are some of the Ceruleans. Yeah, Cerulean. That's what a unit entry looks like. You have your weapon stats, your ship stats, and your upgrades. Let's Something I find really interesting too is in this game, unlike in, say, Dystopian Wars, ships have what they call hardpoint systems. So you can upgrade them. These are mercenaries. These are some mercenary ships, which I really appreciate. And there again, you can see the really nice pictures of their models. I appreciate they put the mercenary roles in there. So that's it. That's my little review of the Kurak Alliance Fleet Guide. I like it. I'm glad I picked it up. I probably at some point will pick up the Zenian League book just so that I have all the fleets in hard physical copies that I can just flip through. And I want to read the fluff of the other side of the battle. So, in the end, like I said, I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good, solid product, which it'll enhance your gaming experience if you want it to. You don't need it, but it's nice extra to have. Hopefully you guys liked the video. If you did, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Give us a thumbs up, share us with your friends, we always appreciate it. And we will see you next time here at Bullshit Games.